Welcome, everyone, to this special City Council work session for September 15th, 2025. Maria, would you call the roll?
Fritz,
Here.
Lowe,
Here.
McLaughlin,
Here.
Manetza.
Here. So this evening, we have a presentation from Kristen Perkowski, Superintendent of Grand Haven Area Public Schools, on the 2025 Master Plan. Kristen, would you like to introduce yourself and take it away?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. Kristen Perkowski. I'm starting year 2 at Grand Haven Area Public Schools. This is year 29 for me in public education. I've been primarily a principal, a teacher, high school teacher, a principal at every level, and spent the last 15 years in the central office, primarily working with curriculum and instruction and working with principals. So I'm really excited to be here this evening to share with you what's really been kind of a year in the making. My first 90 days, I shared with the board a 90-day listening tour, which resulted in feedback around a strategic plan. So we spent most of the winter developing a strategic plan with folks from every department, grade level, and employee group. And that team looked at a lot of data, and we developed a plan that was approved by our board in June. Following that, or I guess at the same time, we've been working on a master plan since last July. So while myself and our cabinet members have been meeting with our OAK and GMB partners, so our construction firm and architecture firm, pretty much every other week since July of 2024. And then starting first of the year, we pulled in our board president and our vice president to join us. So every time we would meet, we would hear more feedback from the community, get more data, and we would continue to develop. And so what I'm presenting this evening is a year in the making of feedback from the community. Number one, the community said, bring us some considerations and some concepts for a future master plan. So what we're presenting tonight is really a 10 to 15 year look at what Grand Haven could be in the next 10 to 15 years, our school district. And with that, I just wanted to start off by just highlighting a little bit about us. You may or may not know that we have about 5,100 students for this current school year, which is approximately 1,000 students down from the 15-16 school year. So in the last 10 years, we've lost approximately 1,000 students to, a lot of it was during COVID. We had obviously people leave and not come back. People homeschooled their children. Some went to private school. Some left the area. But we have lost enrollment, and it is also due to the fact that we have a declining birth rate. We have 12 buildings, and the average age is 62 years old. And while many people talk to me about the new high school, I remind them that it's 30 years old almost and needs a $4 million roof. So as you, again, may or may not know, we do have a proactive maintenance plan to address a lot of the facilities, but with an average age of 62 years, there are things in our buildings that can no longer be serviced and would need to get on a cadence of a bond for some future state. So 100 square miles, our district, you may or may not know, goes all the way up to Whippy Dip. So we've had board members doing a meet and greet the trustees up at Whippy Dip. I have a Coffee and Connect at Grand Traverse Pie, which is also in our district. And I've been out to the embassy in Robinson Township as well, trying to get to all the different parts of our district so we can hear from all of our community. We do have 6 districts that border our district, and we do capture students from all of those districts. So when you think about the folks up near Lake Hills Elementary north of the bridge, we capture quite a few students from up that way that actually attend Lake Hills. Lake Hills is one of those buildings that's starting to burst at the seams. So these are the 3 strategic plan areas that came up as a result of that 6 months of planning: rigorous, relevant, and engaging learning, fiscal responsibility and sustainability, and communication, transparency, and trust. So with these themes as the focus of our district's priorities moving forward, this was really what was rooted in what we're preparing tonight. There is also a progress dashboard that has been created, and we will be putting this on our website with updates to the community to see the progress to date over the next 3 to 5 years as we develop the strategic plan and execute on it.
Kristen?
Yeah.
Could I ask a question?
Yeah.
You mentioned that you have 5,100 students in this current school year, and that the district borders 6 other school districts, and you capture students from other.
We do.
Meaning, how many of the 5,100 are actually live in our?
The majority. I can get the numbers to you.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have them with me tonight, but we do have them by each district, both the students that leave our district and go elsewhere and the ones that we net gain from. Yeah, I'm happy to provide that for you. That was one of the pieces of data that we looked at during this process.
Is that approximately a wash as far as how many you bring in and how many?
No, there are
go elsewhere?
some that we gain more from and others, the majority we gain from. There are some that we lose, a couple that we lose more from. But I'll share that with you.
All right.
Happy to do that. So while the strategic plan has been focused on the educational goals, the vision of focusing on student learning and student academic achievement, the master plan is about how do we turn those goals into action. So it's about the physical infrastructure, the safety of our buildings, all of the things, the capacity, the blueprint of the physical layout of our district. And really, the key piece of this is utilizing community to get feedback, which is why we're out here between now and October 15th doing lots of presentations and seeking a lot of feedback. And I'll talk about the survey that is also available this evening. This is a facility condition index, and it compares the renovation costs versus replacement cost. It's used in public education and other industries to benchmark where we are fair, better, or deficient. And as you can see, the average FCI for the district is 68%, which puts us in the deficient range, which means that as a district average, to rebuild or to renovate our buildings would cost 68% of a new build. Lakeshore Middle School, you can see, is at 80%, so we are way over there. Obviously, the high school at 34%, still in the fair range, but the majority of our district sits at the poor to deficit range. As I mentioned, over the last year, we've been looking at all different factors. These were many of the key factors that were looked at. Frankly, our buildings were not built for the volume of parents who drive their students to school, so some of the traffic issues around, let's just say, Griffin and Robbins Road constantly. Obviously, with Duneside opening, we have had more parents drop off because they're younger. But all of these things, including the shrinking enrollment, the use of the property, some families are asking about decreasing transitions. What would that look like if we didn't have a 5, 6, 7, 8? Some are asking, what would it look like to, address some of the traffic concerns as we think about this? How do we be more efficient? We actually have, like I may have mentioned, there are a few buildings that actually have things to fix that we don't even have people that service them anymore. And so not only do we have a facilities capital projects committee with our business services director, he oversees that, it's board members, community members, and staff that kind of help us prioritize our sinking fund dollars. We also have a proactive maintenance plan that addresses a lot of the things in our district proactively. However, some of the things that we need done are way beyond that, and we now have a top 10 critical list that we share with our facilities and operations committee, our board committee, just to kind of let them know there's some catastrophic things. As you may or may not have known, last year we had to close school for 2 days in October because of a water line break, a water break at the high school, which again is our newest building. We closed Griffin for a day, an elementary school, because of a uprooted plumbing system, and we're able to fix that in a day. But these are the kinds of big ticket items they're going to continue to happen with just the age and stage of our facilities. So these 3 original concepts that were presented to the board in July, we started with a survey on 3 different concepts. And quickly, we received feedback, which I thought was really good feedback, from community members about what would it look like to put out more considerations instead of just picking a concept. And so we went back to the drawing board, our cabinet team, and with, and I want to thank the president's here tonight. Thank you for being here. And went back to the drawing board with our board to say, these are the kinds of things that we want to put in there. Community wanted to know, why would you consider this? Or what were the rationale behind this decision? So they asked us to put it more in a high school, middle school, and elementary focus, and ask us to lay out 1 or more considerations. And so I just want to clarify that none of these are final. Many people are asking about, well, what would it look like? What's the cost to this? And we're waiting to hear back. We are already hearing different versions of what this could be. So somebody might really like this version of the elementary, but a different version over here at the high school level. And so we're not trying to put it into one box, but just get people's level of engagement and support for the things that we have on here. So with that, the only other note or definition is the word decommission, which I will use in this presentation, and that means a no longer active school, but still owned by GHAPS. We would seek community feedback on that, and frankly, from the last, the bond from the middle school, with not a plan for Lakeshore Middle School, I think the community is going to probably ask for us to make sure that we have some sort of plan. We met with Bob and Ashley last week, my assistant superintendent and I, and just talked through what maybe some of the options could be. And I know our board is looking at other options, everything from housing to, magnet schools to other things that might draw families here and to address some of our community challenges. So when I use the term heavy renovations in this presentation, that means pretty much all the systems, within the blueprint of an existing building. Heating, air conditioning, ventilation, gyms, playground. So there are some examples of elementaries being heavily renovated, and I just wanted to provide context that this is what it would mean. So our first consideration is high school. As you know, Central High School is here in town. They share a building with 0 to 3. So these are a Head Start program that's in a separate part of the building. We are down to 40 students right now in our Central High School alternative high school. There was a student advisory council that I created this year at that building, and those students have said things like, I really wish I could have transportation to get to the high school to participate in this after-school club. So it really wasn't equitable for them because some of them didn't have transportation. They also don't have food service coming in the way where somebody's cooking on site, it's cooked somewhere else. So their food, I asked them what the things were that were on their mind. That was one of them, was food. So one of the first options would be to potentially improve the operational efficiency by utilizing extra space at the high school and moving Central High School students and programming over there. I say that it would be a separate section of the high school. And the reason that is being recommended is that that building was built for about 2,000 students. And during the 28-29 school year, the projected enrollment will be about 1,400 students. So we have space at that building. It would also allow us to expand 0 to 3 programming at the central building. This is a huge community need, and I just got the data north of the bridge up by Lake Hills, and it's like a desert. It's like 3 to 1 spots up there for childcare for families up that way. So we are running into limited ways that we can actually offer 0 to 3 with the alternative ed in there due to licensing. So they have to be in certain spaces and can't cross paths and all of that kind of stuff. So that would be one option. We also are thinking about the programming side of this and how could we offer some innovative opportunities, maybe even changing our diploma of some sort for an alternative diploma that allowed a work-based and address some of the community needs. So an example might be, I know SHAPE had recently at a chamber event had talked about they were going to be expanding in the next 5 years and that they were going to have a huge, doubling in size, a huge manufacturing footprint in the area, utilizing artificial intelligence and other things. They're going to be needing people. And so we just said, what would that look like to offer trades or career prep or partner with business and industry for not maybe just those central students, but also Grand Haven High School. So this would be one option that we could do. We also are addressing a need on to think about this, to offer programming. This is the other consideration. Ottawa County ISD, while it's amazing for their Career Line Tech Center, we have a wait list of 500 students in the county. So I don't have the breakdown in front of me for Grand Haven High School, but across the county, the countywide program is we have kids on a waiting list. So another option for high school would be to keep Central where they are or move them to a different location. They would still have limited access to clubs and athletics. We would have operational efficiencies, but we could expand in a smaller way, 0 to 3. But we would also want to still allow for that expansion of innovative programming and even try to address, community needs and help students understand maybe the earning potential of jobs just even in our own community.
Kristen,
Yeah.
I think historically there's been a sense that there was value in having the central students in a different location, separating, removing them from the context of a big high school, putting them in a smaller campus by itself. Is there no longer seen any value in that?
Oh, no, I think there's people that feel that way, and I think there's also people that feel like, we could utilize a separate wing of the high school where they wouldn't be interacting with the other, they'd have their own, kind of space. It would be their own area of the high school that's not utilized right now or underutilized. So I think there's people on both camps, from what I've heard, being out in the community.
Okay.
So middle school consideration. This first one is about combining Lakeshore Middle School and White Pines on the White Pines side into a 5-8 building, which would mean we would demo or not decommission. We would demolish Griffin Elementary. This would help address the traffic concerns at Griffin and Robbins. It would respond to the community ask people saying they would like fewer transitions. We would renovate White Pines, and we would add a common spaces in the middle of the building, so they would share, gym and art and specials classes, and then the south side where Griffin currently sits could be a 7-8 addition. What that also does is it takes the service center out. So we have 36 acres here. In comparison, the Lakeshore Middle School current property is 19. So we have 36 acres here. One of the options could be where you see the service center there by the green on the right side. The service center is where the central office folks are my office, superintendent's office, technology, busing, all that. The proposal would be to have that not be there and have a road that comes in off of Beech Tree to try to split up some of the traffic. It would come into the athletic part of the complex. And we would have a separate parent. It would allow us to, in talking to Public Works, allow us to have traffic be a little bit, more dispersed and not have the issues that we have. What it looks like here, this is just a sample of what it could look like. It would literally be two separate wings attached in the middle. So we could still operate a 5-6 building with a principal and a 7-8 building with principal or principals. And have some, and again, this isn't the design. I want to be clear. This was just, we put it up just for concept so that people could see. But you can see a dashed line on the right side of the visual picture, and that arrow is the Beech Tree access where it could be to the athletic fields. And again, just trying to be creative at one of the ideas that we could consider. Obviously, the pros of this are we have a larger space than that site. We help with the traffic. Some of the cons are that we have a lot of students that participate in town. They go to the library and they go to Mulligan's Hollow and they go to the Y and they do service projects. And so a challenge and safety concern of some is if the students were on the other side, are we going to have kids trying to cross 31, the older, the 7th and 8th graders, and maybe they're already doing it. But I think that's a concern from some parents. The other consideration would be building a new 7-8 Lakeshore Middle School on the current site and maintaining the White Pines site as a 5-6. So this would include a new middle school and athletic spaces. It would include and help with the proximity to downtown, the Y, other resources for middle school students, places to eat after school before, athletic contests. We still maintain the number of school transitions. So for those families that were asking about that doesn't address it. It does limit operational efficiencies as well. What it does, though, is, so in this example, the auditorium, and this is just an example, the auditorium, let's just say, could be left as a legacy piece. It could be renovated, students could stay in the middle school, there could be a middle school built to the north while students stayed in it. Once that was built, students could be in the north version of that. And then the development and demo of the southern half would be the parking and athletic spaces. So again, this is a 19-acre site. Not quite as large, but again, it could be doable. The other option, which isn't on here, but another option that could be is basically displacing students for several years to do just a full renovation or a full demo completely. The other middle school renovation is about a 6-8 building. So renovating or expanding the current Lakeshore Middle School and moving fifth grade to the elementary school. So this one would include the addition to Lakeshore Middle School. It would move to a single middle school on the Lakeshore site. Fifth grade would go back. This would respond to a community ask for fewer operational efficiencies. But under this model, White Pines and Griffin sites would be utilized for different purposes. So Griffin would again be demoed in this scenario, and I'll share the elementary example in just a second as part of this. This was actually from community feedback. In the initial concept, we had a large elementary at the 152nd Lincoln Street property, which is where the proposed middle school was, which is where the majority of our elementary kids live, are down that way. From the feedback, families were like, I like the new idea. I like most of them did not like the large elementary, and they felt, number one, that kids would be lost, it was too big. And number two, they felt that Lake Hills and Robinson, it wouldn't be an equitable experience for those students because they would not be getting the majority of the district. So this was something that came out of that, are these elementary considerations. So this example has us at 4 elementary buildings. It would really help with operational efficiency. We would be able to do the heavy renovations to the buildings. It would involve a decommissioning of Griffin and Ferry, so we would need to figure out what we were doing with those. And the remaining buildings would require some kind of redistricting in order to do that. This is the 5 elementary, certainly not as efficient. It does maintain smaller learning environments. It would include the demo of Griffin, and the White Pines is a 5-8. And so this one, again, it minimizes redistricting, but it also creates challenges with class sizes. So right now, with the number of buildings that we have and the shrinking enrollment, we have some class sizes in some elementaries at 12 and others at 26 in a grade level. And it just depends on where they're all living. They're not all together. And then this was the one that was.
Kristen,
Go ahead. Yeah.
with that many elementaries in the system, would you move your 5th grade to elementary then, so you'd have more in the elementary?
This one would be a 5-8. But obviously, I don't know, this one, I think this would be hard. The 5 buildings is not operationally efficient. I mean, that's why I would just say to the board, it's not as efficient as we could do it with.
Well, I just remember when they brought the 5th grade up to the middle school.
Yep.
Before that, it was always an elementary level. And if you were to maintain more elementary buildings, it might make sense to put them back in the elementary.
Yes. Got it. Yep. Yep. This one is the new addition, which would be 3 elementary buildings. One at the Griffin White Pine site, so utilizing White Pines as a shell for an elementary. Griffin would be demoed in this scenario. We'd have an elementary at 152nd and Lincoln, and we'd have a Lake Hills presence. Lake Hills is 40 acres. And as I mentioned, we have a Desert for 0 to 5 programming up there. So the proposal would be to expand early childhood north of the bridge, capture some of those families north of the bridge to our district. Duneside would still stay open, which, by the way, is open and full and has a waiting list. We got an update today. Good problem to have. We would certainly have improved operational efficiencies with, maintenance, utilities, sharing staff, transportation, et cetera. But the question on this one is, what are we doing with all the other buildings? What does that look like? What is the city's interest in them? What is the board's interest in keeping or maintaining? I'll take we only have Lake Hills Elementary north of the bridge. We no longer have Ferrysburg Elementary, and we need it. So to say we don't know what's going to happen with a Dake Road expansion or other developments in 10 years, I probably won't be standing in front of you in 10 years. So how do we build a legacy and a long-term plan for the district that can also pivot and be flexible down the road for unknown things in the future in terms of enrollment and families moving to the area? So a couple people have asked about the GHAPS property at 152nd and Lincoln. I just wanted to point out this acreage is about 82 acres, a little over 82 acres. 50% of that is potentially buildable. You can see in the pink. There would need to be some, just like with the middle school out there, some other soil testing and just the site wetland things that we would need to consider. But as it is, we would be able to build an elementary there without that. This is just a quick visual of our elementary enrollment throughout the district. So red are the heavily populated areas. You can see the black line is our school district. And then you can see, it's probably hard to see from here if you're in the audience, but we have green all the way to the bottom of the screen, all the way to the north and to the east. So all of those are also students that attend Grand Haven Area Public Schools as school choice students. So again, if we're talking about trying to stabilize enrollment, which is part of our strategic plan, one of the strategies could be considering a 0 to 5 base programming north of the bridge to address the number of families that are already coming to Grand Haven Area Public Schools but don't have coverage for their younger siblings. But you can see, so right where the darkest red to the south, that's where closer to where the 152nd and Lincoln Street would be, and that's where the majority of our elementary students are. So again, I just want to remind that there's not going to be just one concept shared with the board. It's going to be conglomeration of the feedback from the community. I am doing, and my cabinet team, numerous presentations like this over the next We've been doing them since the first week of school. We've been to we're getting to all the staff meetings, all the PTO meetings, booster meetings, and we will be making a recommendation or considerations to the board, both from the survey and the community feedback at our October 17th board retreat and work session. I imagine from there, I'm not going to speak for our board president, but I imagine from there, they will probably direct a cabinet for something more, whether that be, hone in on that concept and get details or put together some phases of what that could look like. Because this, again, is a 10 to 15-year look. This is not something that could be done with one bond proposal. So what would be the priority, of the board and the will of the board based on the feedback from the community? And so the goal would be to give them that feedback at the November and December meetings. And the board would need to make a decision about a future bond vote in '26 by the January or February, whether it was May or August. There's the survey, ghaps.org/masterplan. All these considerations in more detail are listed on there, and we're really asking about people's level of support for the concept. Not that you're for one or the other, but what, does this make sense? Is there more that you would want us to consider? And I think we're over 1,000 responses just since we put this out last week. That's a lot more than 93 that we had at the beginning when we changed the concept. So I think the word's getting out. I'm happy to answer any questions, but just let me know if there's any other groups that I could come and meet with. I actually met with 3 no voters last week with my assistant superintendent, and we shared the presentation with them and answered some of their questions and concerns and maybe misinformation. And so I'm happy to do that or go to a business, other places to present if there's an interest. Any questions I can answer?
Anyone have questions?
Yeah, Kristen, do you know, back to the declining enrollment, especially in the elementary age, is that declining faster in the past 10 to 15 years? Has that declined faster than that demographic age group has overall?
I would have to check with my assistant soup on that. He's the one that collects all that data. I can let you know.
I think
I know that families in town, the peak of families living in town was like the early mid-90s, I think, and it's gone down since.
Yeah, that would just be interesting to take a look at. And I'm guessing that, you made some assumptions about some of the school-age children are now going to private schools, either Grand Haven Christian or
And we have
St.
those
Mary's
numbers.
Catholic School. Oh, you have
We do.
actually
Yes.
numbers. It would be interesting to see what's happening with their, enrollments and I don't know if you've thought of this, but finding out why they've chosen to go that route versus remaining in the public schools.
Part of our strategic plan is to work on a comprehensive system of feedback to get that, but we also are just personally, our HR department's personally calling families if they choose to leave and he's capturing what the reasons are for that. They're everything from athletics to programming to facilities to people are moving from the area. So it's right now hard to pinpoint, but I do think we could have a more comprehensive feedback system to give us some real, data and information to help with that.
It just might be good going forward. You had a lot on your plate here in terms of looking at the age of buildings, but it just occurs to me that would be good information to
Yeah,
have.
great. Thank you.
Anything else? Kevin?
No, I'm good. Okay. Just a lot to.
Yeah, it is.
That's all.
It's a year in the making, yeah. No, and if there's further questions, feel free to call. I'm happy
You may
to.
hear more from us as time goes by.
I love it. I love it. I'm a processor too, so I need time to digest this, but
Mike?
it really is. I mean, I just want to, again, point out the board does not have a bend toward one of these plans, right? I mean, these are all concepts that would help with the fiscal responsibility and sustainability of our district moving forward, long term.
Yeah, I think I've been in most of those schools my whole life here, so.
Have you?
Yeah. I remember when the White Pines was being built, I was the first 7th grade class in there. when we went in-
Wow,
when we
that's
went
a
in
fun
there.
fact.
Yeah, it goes back, that's how old it is, it's
Yeah.
pretty old. You got your hands full here and everything else, but you talk about transportation, and a good example is over at the Duneside Discovery over there, you have a great problem because it's actually been better than what you anticipated, I imagine, because you have a waiting list now and everything else.
We do.
But I don't know if is it a state thing or is it a
The transportation
district
for
thing
littles.
transportation for like, because you got a lot of 4-year-olds there now.
Yeah.
And they have to be driven in where the 5-year-olds can ride a bus. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're exploring options. I
Because
think it would be
that
very
would be-
costly, but we're exploring, that's one of the things on the table, to figure out what that would look like. I'm pretty sure we have to have car seats and things for the youngers to be on the buses, so I think there's a whole nother level. Our transportation department's looking into that.
Yeah, I was going to say, because you see a lot of cars over there, because I just have my shop just not too far away from there, so I happen to be down there. And they have a lot of traffic, and it's very confusing, and the hospital's not real happy with us.
Oh, I know.
'cause-
Yep.
Because everybody
We're-
parks across the street in their parking lot, and they're, Doonside's trying to do their medical
Yep,
people there.
we've been in touch with their folks, they, you know.
Yeah, I know. My
yeah.
wife used to be secretary at Mary
Okay,
White, yeah.
okay.
So I know exactly what you're going through.
Well, and we have a new director, and she's very innovative. They have already cut the wait time and all of that down. I'm sure they will. I met with her today, and she gave the board an update on where we are. It's not perfect, but it is much improved in the early days. And some of that delay is simply because you have kids so young that the detachment, of parents leaving, you know, and there's like a hug zone now. They moved over so they'd get it out of so that we don't have the delay. So she's been very creative about, you know, helping, but we're really excited because the kids are so excited to go to school. Like,
They are.
I'm just hearing so many amazing stories about, and we haven't even really gotten outside. The kids they've gotten outside, but not to the point that we're utilizing the space like we will be, you know, here in a few weeks.
But I think if we go with the 4-year-olds, if we somehow can get some busing, because they're coming from all over.
They
I mean,
are.
All over the whole district, they want to be there. They're coming from out in Robinson Township.
They
They're
are.
coming from across the bridge, and everybody's driving their cars there, and it does make it really more congested there. And when you have a lot of.
Well, if you have a funding source for that, I would love to hear about it. You know, I mean, yeah, I understand. And again, that's part of the reason, one of the suggestions that came from the community was having something up.
I understand a lot of these buildings are old, just like
Yeah.
me.
Like you.
Well, even, I mean, if you
And
look
I've
at
been-
those,
I've
some of the
been-
other elementaries that we've, you know, kind of as comparisons in other districts, they do have, they understand a lot of parents are dropping off. These parents weren't driving to even the other elementaries. I mean, the issues that we have at all the buildings are that we have a lot more parents driving their kids to school, and they weren't built for that.
Yeah, they weren't built for a lot of things that we have today. They were built for yesterday, and we're trying to adapt things into them. I know when my brother was on the school board, they tried to do the same thing with Lake Shore there, and there's so many obstacles in there, and there's still asbestos, there's still all kinds of stuff that you should have. Security-wise, it doesn't meet the standards that we need today because of what happens today. Anything can happen, so you got your hands full.
Thank you, Mr. Fritz, I appreciate that.
You know, you really do. You got your hands full, and I commend you on trying your best to do it. But I still like to see some elementaries in the city of Grand Haven, for the simple fact is, we're trying to get young people to come to Grand
Yeah.
Haven. We're doing all these different developments and stuff and coming in here and trying to help them out and trying to get housing that is affordable for people to come here. So if we don't have a good educational system, it's very difficult for us to attract even younger people to come here.
They are
'cause-
really linked. I mean,
Yes,
and the
absolutely,
other
so-
link data point is I have 147-ish teachers that are retirement eligible in the next 3 to 5 years. So I don't know where all these new teachers coming from wherever are gonna live. I mean, that is another challenge that we face.
And I like where you say you wanted to be more trustworthy and more openness and stuff like that. I commend you on that, and stay focused with the people, try and do that as much as you possibly can, because right now, from the reason why the last millage didn't go, there was a lot of misunderstanding, I
Yep.
think, on that. So we have to make sure, it's the same thing that we do something here when we want to go for a millage. We have to make sure that people know exactly what we're doing, how we're doing it, and why we're doing it. So I appreciate everything that you've done here so much. And that
Thank you.
It's a lot to comprehend. I just kind of went over a little bit of it, but.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Call with questions. Don't hesitate to reach out. Remember, I've been looking at this for a year. You're looking at it for the first time, so I'm happy to.
Welcome to Grand Haven.
To follow up. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for the time and opportunity this evening.
Well, you're not done.
Oh, I'm not done. Okay,
No,
sorry.
that's 3 of us.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Bob.
And we have talked, and so I appreciate
Yes.
this, and I saw this presentation before. And I'd like to echo some of what Mr. Fritz had to say was that, we are looking, as you are looking years into the future, so are we, and we're looking at the viability of our neighborhoods, the health of our population, and the, frankly, having a generational population here and not just an aging population. And we need to have those assets within our city in order to attract people. And we have housing challenges and all those same challenges, and so we share those. And really, the communities, the community and the school system grew up together, so they share all these things in common.
I've been here long enough to know that for sure.
Yeah, and you've seen this in other communities. We've seen
have.
it here. So the consideration for maintaining an elementary presence within the city, especially on the east side where a larger part of our younger population is. And your heat map of distribution of population kind of shows that. There's a section on the east side there where we still have a school-age population.
And I believe, I'm not speaking for the board, but I believe that would be their
Yeah.
preference as well.
And that would be, I think, something wise that would be helpful for the community, maybe not operationally as efficient, but sometimes I think we set that aside in terms of long-term goals. So we try to make the best compromise. And we're accustomed to, as well, make hard choices with limited resources. We get that. When it was time to convert Mary White from an elementary to a different purpose, we understood that, and we thought you came up with a good, creative solution for that one. And I'm sure there's creative solutions here, and we've seen some interesting ones. So whatever you land on, I would hope that we can make it resource for the city as well as for the entire district, and that it'd be equitable for the students and for the whole population. I do like some things you've said today. I like the idea that with both high school and central students, that there might be some emphasis more on skilled trades type training, or more hands-on, or maybe not so much the college track training, because that's important, and a lot of kids are going to go that way. I like the just the idea that where you have area, where you have population, where you're trying to get a limited amount of transitions. Fewer transitions is better. I thought when they went to the White Pines as a 5-6 school and Lake Shore as a 6-8, as a 7-8 school, I thought that was a mistake at the time. It was done for operational efficiency. And I'm not sure that it was the best move, but it worked at the time, and maybe as time has passed us by. That's when the 5th grade got absorbed into the middle schools. And that was to make room for the pre-K, which apparently doesn't need that much space anymore.
Well, we may.
Yeah.
The Young Fives is at Duneside, and if we
Well,
keep growing the rate, we're
Yeah.
going somewhere else too.
Sometimes
That's-
today's priorities drive you to do things that,
I know.
10 years, 15 years down the road, you say, well, we need to do something different now.
I'm a strategic thinker, so I think 5, 10, 15 years down the road always. And it's kind of a blessing and a curse, but I want to be able to leave a legacy, so at least whoever is taking over for board and, someone in this seat, that there's at least like a roadmap and a path forward, despite that there's, could be changes to our community or demographics or how it might look, but
And our master planning looks out 20 years as well. So, we try to look at goals such as attainable housing and getting more people to
Yeah.
make the neighborhoods more attractive. That's all part of what we look for as well. So,
appreciate
as
the
far as
feedback.
specifics about I like plan A, B, C, or D, I'm not going to get into that, but I think there's attributes here in each of these that's very interesting and in many ways doable. And probably plan E or F or X is going to be the one. We'll see what those
X.
look like.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's open to the public, October 17th. Feel free to
It
attend the
is,
board
and so,
meeting.
I would encourage people, take the survey, communicate with us as well, and then we
And I
can.
would just encourage you and Ashley, if you hear of things in the community, or any of you, to just call our office and let us know, hey, I'm really hearing this, like, this one thing is really,
Right. And we're
gaining
hoping
some
that people
traction.
will watch the recording of this
Yeah.
this session and also chime in. We heard a lot of people came to council when it was the Mary White transition. They came here and expressed their displeasure.
Yep.
And we hear you, you're our constituents, and so we hope that people will communicate with us as well and share their perspectives.
Great.
We'll make sure that you hear what we hear.
I will also be recording this presentation to Rotary on Monday, so we'll have that on our website as well. Anybody that misses any of these multitude of presentations over the next 30 days can see that there too.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming
Thank
here and
you.
sharing
Thanks for
with us.
coming in.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is the only item of business on our special work session, and our charter forbids us from doing other things in our work session, so I'm going to, at 7:10, I'm going to close the work session, and we will resume at 7:30 with our regular meeting. So don't go away. listening earlier. We had a work session, which ended a little early, so we adjourned that. Now we're going into our regular city council meeting for September 15th, 2025. Marie, would you call the roll?
Fritz,
Here.
Lowe,
Here.
McLaughlin,
Here.
Manetza.
Here. We have no invocation this evening, but if you would rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, we don't have appointments and reappointments this evening, so it brings us to our approval of the consent and regular agendas. Can I get a motion for that?
So moved?
Support?
Motion by Fritz, support by Lowe. Are there any changes that we need to make to either the consent or regular agenda? Anyone? Anyone from staff?
Nope.
Okay, would you please call the roll?
Fritz,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Manetza.
Yes. All right, brings us to our first call to the audience. This is the first of two opportunities. At this time, members of the audience may address council on any item, whether on the agenda or not. Those addressing council are asked to provide their name and address, will be limited to 3 minutes of speaking time. Council will hear all comments for future consideration, but will not have a response at this time. Those not physically present who would like to call in may dial 616-935-3203. Who would like to address council? I would also like to point out there are no public hearings this evening, so this is your best opportunity to address council.
Good evening, Jim Hagan. I'd like to thank the superintendent for the presentation. It was pretty informative. One takeaway I had was, I remember, a couple of years ago when the bond issue was first put out there, they said, oh, what we want to do is we want to move that middle school. We're going to demo it, and then we're going to hold on to the land. And I really believe that we need to have more discussions with the school district on what's going to happen when schools are no longer needed. I don't think it's appropriate for the school district to hold on to these pieces of property. We should look at planned developments. My goodness, we are so landlocked as a city. And let's face it, we heard from Councilman Fritz about the number of people dropping off the young preschoolers at the old Mary White, which I guess is now the Dune Center. But in any case, that's what's going to happen with the young kids. It's not going to go away. If we want to convert Central into all, pre-5, it's not going to work. That location is where the old high school was built. It was purchased by the predecessor of the Grand Haven Public Schools in 1870 when we were, and that's the kind of streets that surround it. It's not something that we want for pre-5. If we need pre-5, the district needs to look up where the children are. We heard they're down in the township. We heard they're over the bridge. That's right. If the elementary students are there, that's where the pre-5 are going to be too. So I really would like to encourage future talks on looking at planned developments on some of this old school property. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Who else would like to address council? There will be a second call to the audience, but it'll be at the end of the meeting after we've concluded our business. So if you'd like to address council now before we deal with the agenda items, this would be the time. If no one's coming forward, then I'm going to close the call to the audience and we'll move on. All right, that brings us to our consent agenda. Maria, would you please read that?
Item A, approve the regular city council meeting minutes of September 2, 2025. Item B, approve the bills memo in the amount of $3,082,507.72. Item C, adopt a certified resolution approving the MDOT Aero 2025-0727 grant for the reconstruction of runway 18/36 and the budgeted amount of $524,121. Item D, approve the administrative services agreement between the City of Grand Haven and Northwest Ottawa Recreation Authority for the city to continue providing administrative services to Nora. Item E, approve a special event request for 5 Alarm Chili Cook-Off from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on October 11, 2025 at the Lynn Sherwood Waterfront Stadium. Item F, approve the request from Bluebird Cancer Retreats to use Lynn Sherwood Waterfront Stadium for the Community Care Center Walk from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. on October 4, 2025. And item G, approve Oddside Ale's special event request to use 3 parallel parking spots on North First Street for a band's van and trailer during a Halloween show at their location at 41 Washington Avenue, Grand Haven, Michigan, 49417.
All right, can I get a motion?
So moved.
In support.
Motion by Lowe, second by Fritz. Any questions on any of these items?
Yeah, I got a question on the item C, on that contract. I was reading it, there's a Duffy Accord type thing in there. Are we obligated to follow through with what the secretary wanted us to do under that Duffy award thing? Are we going to have to participate with ICE?
Tom can certainly add to, because we had the language between MDOT and the federal government, that language was in there. We are required to at least cooperate per the federal order. So I don't know if Tom has anything else to add.
Good evening. In regards to the question, there was a lot of turmoil between the federal government and MDOT on that, that is the bipartisan infrastructure money that we're getting from the federal government. And there was an issue, but it was resolved by the state. So we just assume that everything's a go and it's good. We don't know of any issues with that.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because what I seen in our packet was that we're going to have to follow through with, if we take federal money, we're going to have to follow through with cooperation with ICE and that, and I have a hard time with that.
Okay. Any other questions?
We're going to ask you to read all 90 pages of this packet of submittal,
I didn't look at it.
but we won't do
Now,
that.
did I look at it that close? Not as close as Mike has, evidently. So, okay.
Any other questions on anything?
So then this this has been resolved pretty much, or is it in court, or what is the deal?
I mean, if there's a level of comfort to postpone it, I don't recall if there was a deadline on that, so we could have an attorney review it. But my understanding is there isn't any kind of agreement that's formulated in executing this with regard to what you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
But if it provides additional comfort, we could postpone that
Well, this
to
is
come back.
within our consent agenda, and we didn't pull it off. So we'd have to postpone the entire consent agenda.
Bob is correct, you can't amend the consent agenda anymore at this point since you just,
So if we wanted to postpone action on this item, we would postpone the entire consent agenda.
I have no idea how the rest of you guys feel on that, but it's an
I
obligation.
guess it's, I understand what you're saying, Mike. I guess it's,
That there's strings, these are more strings
Yeah.
attached than what normally we get from the federal government. This is,
ain't gonna change. that's for
You know.
sure. I guess it's what they mean by cooperate. I mean,
our guys are stretched thin as it is already in order for them to do,
I'll be off council before that.
you will.
I will anyways, but.
The project most likely will not happen until the spring of the year anyway. So I was going to be coming with 2 other contracts behind that grant to start the work probably in the spring of '26. So we do have time, I guess is the point.
Other questions?
Can we bring, can we, we don't want to turn down all that, everything, that's a big pain.
Well, yeah, I mean, when there's a question that's weighty on one item, we really need to pull it off the consent agenda.
So what do we do now?
Can you identify what page are we talking about? Is it just the word cooperate? Because I think that's
You know where it is,
open
Mike?
to,
It's 90 pages?
yeah.
So what is the recommendation? How do we get it off then?
You either, there is no, you either have to vote for the consent agenda or you have to vote down the consent agenda. If you wanted any discussion on the item, you would have had to remove.
I know.
But, so at this point, you either vote for the consent agenda or you don't vote for the consent agenda.
I mean, we could postpone action on the consent agenda rather than vote no on everything else.
Everybody can wait 20.
No, there is no.
I'll be voting yes on this.
And then I would just remind you that we don't have another city council meeting scheduled until October.
I can't hold everything up, I'll vote for it, but I don't like it. You're right, Mike.
I think there's a lot of things that,
Did you find it? I just don't see where you're referencing.
I'm sorry, I should have probably had it taken removed.
well, yeah, I mean, in a case like this where there's a potential that we would not want it to advance, we have to get it off from here.
Yeah, I
We
understand.
can always move things to new business,
Yeah.
and I always welcome that. Sometimes I think we make our consent agenda longer than it needs to be, but it's a matter of efficiency.
Just had a question on it, just didn't know if we were obligated to follow through, because the way the agenda, the way it was written in there was yes, and then there's a lawsuit that it's going through right now, I don't know where it's at, so. As far as the state goes, yeah, it's pretty easy for the state to say that, but it's federal money.
What do you say, Karen?
I think the word cooperation is, if that's the word, I'm just trying to find the section, and I think that's open to interpretation. Of course, we cooperate with federal authorities on
That was-
everything we do.
That was under the
But,
Duffy Accord.
I think it's just about the definition and what,
I think by and large, I think their approach has been, we do our job, they do theirs.
right. Which
Not that I like that
I
job.
think we're obligated to do anyway. We
Yep.
do our job. So I don't see an issue, I guess. And
Okay. Any other concerns on the consent agenda? Any of these other items? Unless there's more to talk about here, I think I'll call for the vote. Are we ready to vote?
Yeah, go ahead. Hold everything up.
Okay, why don't you call the roll, please?
Lowe,
yes.
Fritz,
No,
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Manetza.
Yes.
This motion passes.
All right, thank you. All right, that brings us to our unfinished business. Would you please read the first item of unfinished business?
Item A, consideration by City Council of a resolution to establish an obsolete property rehabilitation district at 224 Washington Avenue, parcel number 70-03-20-436-011, with a legal description of west 43 feet on north 58 feet lot 243 and west 43 feet lot 244 original plat, and to establish a finding that it is an obsolete property in an area characterized by obsolete commercial property or commercial housing property pursuant to Section 3, 1A of the Obsolete Property Rehabilitation Act, PA 146 of 2000. The EDC/BRA recommends approval and administration recommends approval.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Fritz, second by McLaughlin. Dana, would you like to reintroduce this item?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Before you this evening is consideration for what's commonly called the Grand Haven Jewelry Building. It's been vacant for roughly 7 years and 5 under the current owner. The building in question was deemed an obsolete property in 2021 by the city assessor or the county assessor who we contract for services through. Based on that, the applicant or the property owner is seeking approval of an obsolete property district for the parcel, with ultimately a request coming forward for a obsolete property rehabilitation abatement certificate. This will help the developer in redeveloping the property into a new mixed-use project with ground floor commercial space and 7 upper story residential units, with a portion of those being considered attainable. The property owner is here this evening if there are additional questions and information requesting clarification from council. Otherwise, we'll be bringing back the certificate request formally in October.
All right. So for the sake of discussion, items A and B have been treated so far as basically the same item, but statutorily they're 2 different things. But I would invite council members to ask questions about any aspect of this at this time, and then we'll just flow into the next item as it comes up. But specific,
Together.
yeah, let's just keep this discussion all as one discussion, even though on our agenda is 2 items. I think it makes the most sense that way.
Okay.
Who would like to start with questions? And of course, Mr. Doyen is here. I guess I would invite you, do you have a comment you want to make initially before we start asking questions?
Nothing specific to make as a comment, just excited to have it here at this stage and get this thing going.
Okay, thanks. I'm sure there are questions for you. Who would like to start?
I can start.
Go ahead.
Okay. Mr. Doyen, I do have a few questions. I'm not going to review anything that I presume you watched our last meeting, and I think we had a number of outstanding questions. But then there's been some additional information that's come in, and I just wanted to get some clarification from you. I understand, and I don't know if this is correct, so I just want you to confirm this. In 2020, when you purchased the property for $679,900, you went out and got a construction loan in the amount of $1,087,450. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I understand that was from Lake Michigan Credit Union, 30-year, and it was at 3.1% interest?
I'm not exact sure on the interest, but that sounds right.
Okay. And that was the purchase price, and then there was an amount left over from that was used for some of the demolition and beginning some amount of demolition. Is that correct? I think that's what we heard from the...
Yeah, we did the asbestos abatement and the initial demolition. That was the only part we were allowed to do. Can't do any improvements when you're in an MEDC process.
Mm-hmm. And you bring up the asbestos abatement. I believe that when you received the obsolescence certificate from our city inspector, they said there was an infestation of something. I think your representative wasn't sure if that was rodents or there was some kind of infestation that had to be remediated.
I think previously in the past, but when it first went vacant, I think they had a bird infestation, but they had sealed all that up, so there wasn't anything there when when
That
we
was
got-
on the document in 2021 from our city assessor that there was an infestation.
And I think he was referring to that previous bird infestation that had gotten into there.
Oh, that it had been remediated by the
Correct.
Prior-
Yeah, by the jewelry store owners. Yeah, so when
previous,
I received the building, there weren't any birds or anything in there. Everything was boarded up.
no rodents, no, okay. And it's my understanding that you have an additional loan and lien against the property at this time for
The-
$250,000?
The 250,000 is actually just one of our investors in a different project, so it's not a loan that's been used against this project. It's just securing one of our investors.
Okay. Well, so can you help me understand? I guess I was led to believe previously that the reason why you delayed your project is that it was an issue of cost of capital and funds and a number of other things, because you purchased the property in 2021 after you had received a parking exemption from City Council. Then in 2021, a year after you purchased it, you received the city inspector certifying it as obsolete, which would have been all green flags for you to move ahead with your development. And you had already received a loan, a construction loan in the amount of, in excess of what the property cost. So at that point, though, you didn't proceed. Instead, in 2022, you relocated to Florida. So I guess I'm trying to understand what happened the last few years and why city seemed to be giving a lot of green flags and assistance and help, and yet nothing happened.
Not any assistance, actually, but the giving us the obsolescence was actually one of the first rounds for the MEDC. That was one of the requirements that we had for that. And the reasoning that we were able to do the demolition work is because that was something I negotiated so we could at least get some of the work going. But under the MEDC rules, you're not allowed to do improvements to the property while you're within the MEDC process. And when we first started it and I purchased it, it took us a while to get the plans and everything figured out what we were going to do with it. And then we started our process with the MEDC, got through all of the initial phases, and then crickets happened, couldn't get any responses back. Got a reply a month later from someone saying, oh, hey, sorry, the person that was here is now gone. But don't worry, we have a brand new person and a whole new set of packet of paperwork. So you'll be excited to start all over again. We got going with that person, and 6-8 months later, crickets, no replies. Finally get a reply back, says, hey, that person's no longer with us, but don't worry, we've got a brand new packet of paperwork. We'd be excited to get you started all over again. So we went through this is our fourth round now. And, definitely not the delays that we wanted to have, but the only thing we were allowed to do was the work that we had done and getting it remediated and getting it gutted out, and then we've been at the will of the waiting.
So the MEDC process has gone on for 4 years?
I mean, there's been lulls within it, but
That goes back to when you were there.
Yeah, I was going to say in
We
and
blame
out.
you?
Is it my fault? Yeah, in and out. As they've had staff changes, I think they have had new people say, well, we want to relook at it because it hasn't gotten to the point where it's been fully signed off or whatever stage
Right.
of approval necessary. So then someone requests, hey, we want to look at it again. So it causes further delay. So that's what it sounds like. It's kind of initially was in that phase for a while.
And one of the other delays we had is we had to have city involvement. C is approved too, and at one point during one of those runs, the city had stated, we're not interested in putting anything into it, and that killed that round. So it's just kind of been, I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to see us get to this stage and hopefully get this thing through this round and approved and moving forward.
If you'd like to speak, come up to the podium, please, and tell us who you are.
Lance Zorhart from Warner Norcross. I'm pinch hitting for Jared Belka.
But he brought us in to help facilitate things with the MEDC, and I think we're now in a place where we can move it forward. So he ran into some roadblocks early on. There's 2 different times that I know of. I'm not as intimately involved with it, but 2 different times where roadblocks were put up, we were brought in. I think we can get it across the finish line. So he's pushing it forward, and he's brought us in to help with that. So
Mm-hmm.
we've been a year currently in this process, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, so that makes some sense. I will say that I've been on city council since 2021, and I never had this come forward to me as something that, so I wasn't aware if the city put up additional roadblocks after green lighting the parking and green lighting, with the city inspector. That's rather surprising to me, but in looking at your pro forma and assumptions and the work that Plant Moran did, I do have a couple questions and some concerns. If I'm understanding sort of the proposed layout and just in order to try to get 7 residential units in the upstairs, am I right in that some of those units will not have exterior windows but will be facing a common hallway? Is that correct?
Correct, and we're gonna have atrium lighting coming through the roof, so we've got large skylights.
Skylights, okay. And that will be for how many of those, is that 4 internal units that would have that, or do you know off the top of your head?
I don't know off the top of my head, I wanna say it's 3 units.
3 units, okay. When Plant Moran went through some of the analysis, they, clearly, in the pro forma, looked at sort of your assumptions around, with the rent and your market analysis and what they thought, they thought some of those assumptions exceeded market rates, and that this really looks good from a first year, only if we look at our optimistic, assumptions. Is that one of the reasons why you need the brownfield subsidy?
Yeah, I mean, the cost of construction and everything that's gotta go into the building, it's a extremely high dollar, and with everything that has escalated over the, years and the time, it's, the project just doesn't make sense and can't pencil forward without having that.
But the brownfield subsidy is really about subsidizing the rent so that you would make that attainable or housing, correct? That's factored in there.
Yeah, and that was part of the original plan of being able to provide that workforce housing downtown and have the attainable units.
Right, so if we said we didn't want that, your project couldn't go forward. If we weren't interested, if I look at it, the benefit is for three lucky people for 15 years get subsidized, housing. And I kind of think, what's the best use of our brownfield dollars? And I'm looking more, let me say, at Chinook Pier. I'm really looking more at some of, our blighted sites where I think that really would make a difference versus using it as a subsidy for housing for 3 people for 15 years in your building.
Well, that is also how it determines, it's how much. I mean, because it's, what is it, 726,000 is the carve out for potential.
That's what you're eligible for, right?
But we're much lower than that in the estimate of the overall amount. There's a cushion in between that if we were able to capture more in taxes, we would, but it's not a significant amount, but it's enough to get this thing feasible.
On the brownfield
Are you
part.
done?
Yeah.
On the brownfield part, the the state has changed a lot of the rules on that, what is eligible for brown.
Yes, they've introduced and passed new legislation that makes this particular request possible in terms of the reimbursement for potential rent loss over the course of in this case, the 15-year time period.
That's what I thought I did. I don't have a problem with going to the obsolete property district. I don't have a problem with that at all. And moving forward, I talked with a lot of the business owners that live right next, actually live next door and also own businesses right next door to it. And they're very positive in moving forward with it from downtown area, so something's better than nothing, that's how I look at it. And the way brownfields work is that you're trying to take and turn something that's not there into something that's worthwhile in the long run for us, so it's an investment, just like we've done with a lot of other places in town here for a brownfield. We invested in the pieces of property because the property is, was a brownfield for one thing, and it meet this distinction of the state of what they wanted, the regulations that we have, and it's only certain things that they're qualified to deduct for it. So we've done that all around town, and we end up having a bigger tax base coming in for it now after it runs off. So it's patient money. You just got to wait it out a little bit, but it's an investment that we make, and it's not all of our money. It's part of the state, it's part of the schools, part of everything else. It's not in the county. It's not all of us. It's not just the city of Grand Haven. And you're still going to be collecting taxes as it is right now, but at least you're going to have something better looking down there.
Mike, you done?
For a little while.
Okay, Kevin, go
I'll
ahead.
yield to somebody else.
At the last meeting I did, and I talked to some of these gentlemen about the equity involvement in this project, and I had assumed the 236, I had assumed it was going to be a lot more than that. So I surely can understand from an equity perspective that you're putting some money into this deal, and I feel a bit more comfortable about that. I also said that I'm the first one to try to help somebody with property taxes across the, surely in the initial years. It can make or break a project, and I have, no problem helping out with the taxes. What really bothers me is what Karen brought up about the 3 units. I just think I don't think it's something that we should do downtown. And I'm really having hard struggling with that. I would really hope that you could find a way to do this project without that. If you can't, then we may not be looking at our project. But I would really like to see if there's some way that we could work these numbers a little bit differently so that wouldn't happen. In fact, I asked your attorney and I asked you, condos look pretty good downtown. But, that's up to you. But I'm having a pretty tough time with that.
Okay. Well, for my part, I'm not. I think that attainable housing is a goal. Having it downtown is not a bad place for it. And I don't think that we need to carve out an area where we say this is not suitable for attainable housing. I think that what you're asking for here as part of the brownfield housing is something new to us. We've not done one of these before. We've done brownfields for polluted sites and sites that are encumbered by old infrastructure and such. And this is somewhat different, so I think sometimes the word brownfield is uncomfortable for people. It just happens to fall under that act. One thing that I have talked a little bit with staff about is next time we get one of these housing TIF proposals is that we might look more in terms of the rehabilitation cost or the capital cost and using brownfield dollars toward that as opposed to rent support directly. The way this came in, it fits the statute, but we also have options in what we would make for policy going forward. This is our first go-around with this sort of a brownfield policy. And so maybe the next one we look at, we'll learn from this one. But by the same token, this one, not a tremendously large amount of money from a brownfield perspective. And I think it does support the city's goals for attainable housing, and I have no problem with having attainable housing in a downtown setting. I think there are people who work downtown who, there's no reason why they can't live there, and this is not, it's not subsidized housing in the sense of something that would be undesirable for the district. I think it's just going to help somebody who's right at 100% of median income, which I think is the goal for this one. So I think it fits the city's goals. I think for these 3 units is fine. I think that we probably could have written up a brownfield housing TIF in a different manner that wouldn't be a direct rent support, that might be more palatable. Dollar for dollar, I think that we could probably make this work either way. And I don't think that there's a lot to be gained by that. But I do understand how this fits into the picture of trying to put this incentive package together and also make it appealing for the MEDC. And it's also, I think, something that we should all keep in mind is that none of our city incentives generate any benefit from you until you increase the value of the property, because it's all based on that tax increment. So I think that getting that value increased so that you can realize benefit from this is all of our goal. I think that nobody wants to see this property languish. On the history of it, how we got to where we are, that the fact that it sat for so long with no obvious investment, and some level of neglect. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in going forward. Where are we going to be next year, the year after? It's got to change. It's got to be invested in. It's got to be brought back, or it's going to fall apart and be gone. And I don't think that's a desirable option either. So I think that while I might not have put the project together in quite this way, I don't think there's anything here I object to. I think it would accomplish goals that we have and get us to a place where we want to be as a community for that property and for our downtown. There were some things that I brought up last time that I understand has been discussed with you, which would make both part of the Oprah abatement and the TIF, and that would be having a commitment to a start date, such as 1 year from the incentive approvals. Commitment to the facade design, which we haven't seen other than ideas and concepts on your website, which are frankly not well suited to what we think our downtown looks like. But you have a commitment to be in alignment with the Downtown Development Authority design guidelines, which I think would be very nice, and also could complement that historic building. It's an 1890s building, part of the fabric of the downtown, part of the landscape, and part of our historic character. And an estimated completion date, substantial completion, in this case within 18 months, is a reasonable number. And if those things are included, that would satisfy the concerns I had as to what are we buying into? Is there certainty here, or is it going to languish for longer? And I think we all want that level of certainty. And
love that.
I would like to see those things, yes, you too, I'm sure. I think those things need to be incorporated into our motion to approve if we do have a motion to approve. As far as the rest of this, I think there was a question that I brought up this morning about the way a brownfield works, the way a TIF works. You have eligible costs, and those eligible costs are $726,600 as estimated. You have an estimated increase in the value of the property, which guesstimate, however you want to put it, is 2% per year. Might be some other number, might be more, might be less. And we came up with this number through the tax tables of $202,000 and some odd. Mm-hmm. And then when we took into account the actual increased base value of the property, it was more like $199,300, something like that. That would be the capture from the TIF. And in reality, I'm not sure those numbers are locked down. I think those are just estimates based on the 2% presumed growth. So I'd like some certainty as to actually what that capture would be. We're projecting to do it over 15 years, which, according to the tax tables, cuts you off at about that $200,000 figure. But if it increases faster than that, any other brownfield we do, once you meet eligible costs, then you stop collecting and capturing it. In this case, we'll never reach that level because the eligible costs are this $700,000 number. So I guess that's the other piece that I was asking this morning is, are we committed to the $200,000 and some odd number for capture, or is it going to be based on increase in value over 15 years, wherever that comes out? And I don't know if there's been any further discussion on that one.
Yes, it would be the 15 years, so whatever that amount is. So if you,
So it could be, so it could be a very different number.
yeah, you'd have to limit it in the motion then in terms of a 15-year or a cap of the way
so-
that it's written.
Okay, so I mean, is that something also that you'd be agreeable to if you're anticipating $202,000 and the possibility exists that it could be considerably more over 15 years if the property appreciated more than 2% per year? Would you say, okay, after the $202,000 capture, we're done?
Yeah,
Is my question making sense?
yeah, it does.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree to that.
Okay, because normally the brownfields that we're accustomed to, we're doing good if we can hit the eligible costs. And if we do, we stop collecting. In fact, we have another big project in town that we anticipate we're from about a 25-year capture down to about an 18-year capture. Just for that very reason, we're going to hit those costs sooner than we expected. So I guess I would like to be able to include that in here as well, which kind of safeguards the city's position as to how much capture there would be, how much the city's commitment would be. And there again, none of this commitment happens until the value of the built property increases, because we'll continue to collect on the base. Those are the things I'm interested in. That would apply to both the, as far as this commitment on start time, stop time, character of the construction, that would apply to both of our motions on the Oprah abatement and the TIF. The collection amount on the TIF, I think we would need to incorporate that into our motion for approving the TIF, assuming that we get that far, kind of reading the tea leaves between council members. But those are the things I'd like commitment on. And other than those things, I'm in support of the project because I want this building to be properly addressed, properly treated, salvaged, rehabilitated, put back into good use, and fit well into our downtown. So those are kind of comments on both of these items, but again, specifically, we're dealing with the Oprah first and the TIF second. But as I said when we started, we might as well talk about the whole thing at once. So I'll go back to my council members for further comment.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I think one of my biggest issues is also just the risk involved here. And I wanted to make sure the public understands the risks. And of course, I'm sure you have looked at the Plant Moran study and either you feel like you have better information, but it does look like you're looking at we're counting on their optimistic, scenario in terms of rents and, your ability to achieve that, rent. We're looking at how close we are on all of this. I'm with Councilmember McLaughlin. I'd much prefer to see you do it without the brownfield TIF, if that's the only way to, do this. I am also, I could be persuaded by my fellow council members with those 4 clawback provisions that were provided to us, and I would just like to read them as you have provided them to us. That's the construction to commence within 1 year of State of Michigan incentive approvals, project to meet all applicable building and fire codes as determined by the building official and fire marshal. Facade must be complementary to the downtown and in alignment with the Downtown Development Authority design guidelines as determined by city staff. And construction is to be completed within 18 months of building permits being issued. Is that clear? Is that your understanding, Mr. Doyen?
I love it.
Okay.
And that your motion on the $202,000.
Yeah, I think that we want to limit the amount of capture on the TIF to what was projected initially as opposed to what could happen if inflation is higher than we anticipate over the 15 years.
Yeah.
And that number, whether it's 202,000 or 199,000, I don't know. I don't care. As long as it's a number that we,
Right, the initial
fair.
was $202,900 in reimbursement. I might also suggest 15 years up to 15 years or $202,900, whichever is first.
I agree.
Because under the new tax table, it actually is at 199 in year 15 if it was at the 2%. I mean, I know that's an estimate, so it would still cease at 15 years then, based on the request.
Right, well, at 15 years, no matter what it is, that's how much you've captured.
Right.
I just didn't want to go over that, and I didn't want it to become a blank check if we had runaway inflation on this.
Yep.
Question for city staff. What happens if he does not meet the terms of, that we just rattled off, the 4 terms of, what are the consequences? Is the
We can
tax
alert-
abatement
Right,
withdrawn?
we would alert the state and let them know that we're, like with an abatement, for instance,
Abatements,
we
okay.
can contact the state tax commission.
Okay.
And
Thank
that
you.
would then unfreeze the assessment.
Correct.
Okay. So it's significant. Kevin, more?
I'm good.
Mike?
I'm good. I'm all set.
Kevin, did you have more? I've said what I had to say, and I think that the conditions we've asked for would satisfy me. I think that the number that we're asking for maximum capture, do we want to settle on the original 202,900 and something? Whatever that was, I don't have it right in front of me.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
$202,900.
Okay. Is that agreeable to you?
Yep.
Okay. I guess then, if we're ready to vote on the OPRA, the Obsolete Property Rehabilitation District, not the certificate, but establishing the district. Any further questions on that specifically?
No.
Are you ready to vote on this?
Yeah.
Would you please call the roll?
Fritz,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
Manetza.
Yes. Okay, so the certificate is yet to come, but it's obviously, we're open to it, but we wouldn't have voted yes on this. Okay, secondly, for any further discussion on the TIF itself, I think we've been around, talked about it, and expressed our feelings and our misgivings, and set conditions on it.
I think you need a motion.
And I guess that we don't have a motion on the floor on this one yet. So let's have a motion on this item.
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay.
To
Second by
clarify, you're motioning on the wording as written in
As
the
written.
agenda?
That's what's on the agenda. So now
What's
we,
on the agenda?
That's what you're motioning and seconding right now?
yeah, so now,
Okay.
now we'll need to amend that.
I'm going to read it first because it hasn't been
Okay.
read yet before.
All right.
Consideration by City Council of a resolution to approve and adopt the Brownfield Plan for the 224 Washington project located at 224 Washington Avenue, Grand Haven, Michigan 49417 for a period of 20 years. The EDC/BRA recommends approval and administration recommends approval.
Okay, and that is what was motioned and seconded,
And that
because
was,
we had it in front of us,
Fritz and,
in McLaughlin. I would entertain a motion to amend this to add these conditions that we've discussed.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, motion by Fritz, second by McLaughlin to add the 4 conditions here: construction to commence within 1 year, meet all applicable codes, facade complementary to downtown with guidelines, construction to be complete within 18 months, and in addition to that, to capture at $202,900 over 15 years. And that would be the amendment, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's been moved and seconded. Any other questions on the amendment?
Within 1 year of MEDC approval?
Yeah, consider
Yeah.
MADC could take you 16 years, but that's okay.
But
Well-
yeah, but.
Well, I mean, I don't
Just wanna
think,
make sure that.
I don't think you're prepared to start until you have that.
What's that?
I don't think you're prepared to start without that.
Right.
So, and that's the way it was written here, within 1 year of state of Michigan incentive approvals. Okay. Let's vote on this amendment. Please call the roll.
Fritz,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
This is against everything I believe in. Yes,
This is the amendment.
yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
Manetza.
Yes. All right, now we have an amended motion. Any further discussion on this amended motion? Are we ready to vote?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm ready.
Okay, please call the roll.
Fritz,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Yes,
Lowe,
No.
Manetza.
Yes.
This motion passes.
All right, so we have adopted the Brownfield plan as amended.
Thank you.
Thank you.
don't let this city down, please.
No, we're counting on you.
I'm excited to get going on it.
All right, and as I said, the obsolete property certificate is yet to come. Correct?
Yes, correct, sorry.
All right, that brings us to our third item of unfinished business. Please read that.
Consideration by City Council of a final resolution for a zoning change request from I Industrial District to TI Transitional Industrial District for properties located near 924 Beechtree Street, parcels numbers 70-03-27-315-013, parcel number 70-03-27-315-012, and parcel number 70-03-27-315-015. Planning Commission recommends approval and Administration recommends approval.
All right, I need a motion.
So moved?
Support?
Motion by Fritz, second by Lowe. This is the second reading of this resolution amending the zoning ordinance. Has anything changed? Okay, nothing's changed since our last discussion. Any questions?
No.
No.
Please call the roll.
Fritz,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Manetza.
Yes. All right. Brings us to our first item of new business. Would you please read that?
Item A, consideration by City Council of a resolution to approve McKenna as the consultant to prepare the Centertown Vision Plan update with costs not to exceed the budgeted amount of $20,000, with 75% of the total cost covered through Redevelopment Ready Communities, RRC Technical Assistance Funds. Planning Commission recommends approval, Administration recommends approval.
Can I get a motion on this?
So moved?
Support?
Motion by Fritz, second by Lowe. In addition to this, on the DDA board, we looked at this and also recommended approval. So, in case you're interested. Brian, would you like to briefly introduce this?
Good evening, Brian Eckert, City Planner. Yes, the request was that the Centertown Vision Plan was last adopted. Since then, the past 11 years, Centertown, I want to make sure that's kind of a broader area than what we did with the Centertown zoning area. So there's an area between on 7th Street, going down to about Washington Street, consists of a lot of those properties there that are in the neighborhood mixed-use zoning district. However, since that time, Centertown has experienced development pressure, there's been business and investment opportunities, and stakeholder values have changed. Based on those factors, we wanted to recognize that the city seek assistance from consulting firms to update that vision plan. So we had an RFP that went out to bid in July. It was open for about 30 days. We received two proposals, one from Better City, which is a national firm that has a lot of connecting via remote, kind of online engagement, or McKenna, which is a Michigan-based firm that has a growing presence out of Grand Rapids office that has a lot of experience working in the Lakeshore and this West Michigan community. So with those two proposals, we reviewed them with a group of staff and the chair of the DDA and the chair of the Planning Commission. And one of the main high criteria of choosing a consultant was, where are they going to go? What was their proposal for stakeholder engagement and implementation practices? Because best plans can be laid out, but if you don't have implementation strategies in place, that's really the key, and really lay that out. And through reviewing those plans, the committee made the recommendation to go with McKenna. So that was also, as mentioned before, presented to the Planning Commission and the Downtown Development Authority that would agreed to move forward with this process. And it says in the motion, because we go through the Redevelopment Ready Communities program, through the MEDC, we're able to utilize, as a certified community, technical assistance funds. And this, we could apply and receive up to 75% of the cost. And so we capped it at about where this project would be, $20,000. And so some of the elements of this is that we felt as though that with McKenna's proposal, they had a really robust engagement schedule. One-on-one interviews with key stakeholders there, workshops, open houses, design charrettes. Felt as though it was that really ingrained with the community to have that element, because you can have the best plans, but if you there is productivity doing things digitally, but however, the way we felt with this area being a specific area with specific characteristics, business owners, a lot of longevity there, a lot of history there, felt as though that was a really strong case to go with McKenna in this selection. And then also with the factor of implementation. Again, the best plans find ways to have key dates, personnel, selections to make, to have implementation-driven action plans to be able to have this go through. We've heard it from members of the community, other stakeholders. Why didn't we do anything about it? We felt as though that this partnership, working with them with the updated Centertown Vision Plan, will be the best step forward, working with McKenna, and it's recommended to move forward with them. Again, if approved, it would be about a 4 to 6 month timeframe. So it's shorter than our master plan update because of that, but it would be in their outline of work would really step-by-step process that they would be coming back with tangible outcomes, tangible results to go from engagement to feedback to creating a draft plan, then ultimately adoption within the next 4 to 6 months. So that's the reasons why staff and the Planning Commission and DDA are recommending moving forward with McKenna as the consultant for Centertown Vision Plan update.
Okay, thank you.
Very good.
Questions and comments by council?
So what happens if somebody comes walking in and wants to develop a building tomorrow? You're gonna shut them down because we gotta do this plan?
No,
What's the purpose, so then what is the purpose of a plan? I'm not a plan guy, so I think it's a waste of money, but that's me.
having a cohesive vision. I mean, if you have a plan, you want to be able to go off of what we have in the
Is it
Centertown
because
Vision
people
Plan.
don't wanna make a real decision?
What's that?
Because people don't wanna make a decision as things move along, they want something,
Yeah.
whatever. Okay, but you're saying that if somebody does come in, that this wouldn't stop development?
This would not stop development. This would help guide continuous development and kind of a pattern as we see to help that down the line. But as of right now, on a case-by-case basis, no. No plan would.
I mean, at some point, this could lead to amendments to the zoning ordinance, possibly rezoning or new rules or such, which would guide development or
Correct.
enable development, which is currently not feasible.
Yeah.
But if you just do it without a plan, then you really don't have anything defensible to stand on.
But if you have a good plan and a development comes in that doesn't meet the plan, but you really want it, guess what? You're gonna do the development. Plan or no plan, let's be honest.
If it meets,
I'm voting no.
I would just like, I think the plan, all of our neighborhoods want a plan for development. What's the vision for those areas? What kind of vibe do you want? That's really what this is all about. And it doesn't mean that people aren't going to have their own ideas of coming forward. Then you just align it with how that fits in with the vision for the neighborhood. They could have some better ideas. But if you don't have a plan, then you have all kinds of ideas coming in, and it's disjointed, it's not cohesive, and I don't think that's what our Centertown folks want. I wouldn't want it for our downtown either, so I'm supportive of the plan.
Mike, any thoughts?
No, I have nothing to comment on it. I think it's a good idea. Move forward with it, because it also helps us with the zoning. Some places, the property down there, we can't do things on right now, so it'd be nice to get a vision of some sort, move forward on it. That's good.
What's the saying? If you don't have a vision or a plan, any road will get you there.
correct.
Or any road can get you somewhere.
Yeah,
but who knows
might not
where.
be what you wanted.
No, I think that this is the proper thing to do because the plan that we have in place or the studies that we have in place, we have new stakeholders, new ideas, new intentions. some of the things that we believed in 10 years ago are less important now. And I think that we've seen a lack of investment, which we would like to do something about. We also want to still guide it so that we have the neighborhood and the district that the community wants. And I think that's why you do a plan. Do you find a way to do just any project? Well, not necessarily, but you might end up adjusting the project so it better suits the community vision, and the plan will help there. But from a legal perspective, or making it defensible in court, I think that if you base your zoning adjustments on a plan, which is what the State Enabling Act requires, State Enabling Act says zoning should be based upon a plan, that it becomes something defensible, something that has more substance to it, something that you can explain to other community stakeholders, to others coming in. Here's why we did what we did, and here's why it makes sense. And if it takes spending $15,000 of the state's money and $5,000 of our money to get there, I think it's money well spent. And I think it shows good faith to the Centertown group as well, because we've told them that we're working through issues with what you want, and this is what we believe is the best way to get there. And so let's do this and show good faith and end up with a good product.
Yep.
That's my feeling. So, any other thoughts? Ready to vote? Please call the roll.
Fritz,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
No.
Manetza.
Yes.
This motion passes.
Okay. Next item, please.
Item B, consideration by City Council of a resolution to approve a land lease agreement with 301 North Harbor LLC for the redevelopment of Chinook Pier and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary documents. Administration recommends approval.
All right, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Lowe, second by McLaughlin. Dana, is this yours?
Well, I did write the memo, but I'm actually turning it over to our city manager, Ashley Latch, tonight.
All right, Ashley, speak.
Figured I'd give
speak to it.
Dana a break this evening. Yeah, so thrilled to be here this evening with this item. As you know, last year we undertook an RFP process to select a team to advance our redevelopment goals for the Chinook Pier property. And after extensive engagement with different stakeholders across the board in September of last year, City Council authorized staff to go ahead and begin negotiations with Copper Rock as our development partner for that site. And this evening, we're asking for council's consideration to execute a formal land lease agreement with Copper Rock. As a reminder, for the benefit of the public, Copper Rock's proposal was comprised of 3 commercial buildings with an anticipated restaurant space, an office retail building, as well as an indoor outdoor market facility, all of which will be owned and operated by the developer. Other beneficial public investments include the relocation and operation of the mini golf, and additionally, the transferring of maintenance responsibilities for the parking lot and surrounding grounds. The lease before you is for a 35-year initial term with extension options. In this partnership, along with an escalating base rent, the city will realize the benefit of property taxes on a currently non-collecting parcel. So approving this agreement tonight allows the development team to proceed with site plan approvals, as well as incentive requests to keep on track for hopefully a potential construction start in spring of '26. And we do have representation from the development team in the audience this evening if you have any additional questions for any of us.
All right. Would the development team like to make a comment before we proceed?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Greg Taylor. I'm with Copper Rock Construction and Development. And first of all, I'd like to thank the city for giving us an opportunity to proceed on this very unique and very special piece of property. And I'd also like to thank the city manager and staff for the innumerable number of meetings they had with us to try to condense the vision on this project, which I think we've been very successful in doing on a collaborative public and private basis. We appreciate your consideration for what Ashley just laid out, and we're eager to get started with next steps on the project. Certainly happy to answer any questions you may have. And again, thank you for your time and your consideration this evening.
Thank you, Greg. All right, council members, who would like to start?
Sure, I will. I've got a question for you. In the ground lease, the lease rate and term, section 2 of the agreement, says the lease for the property shall be negotiated by the lessor and the lessee during the investigative period. And the investigation period is 12 months. So you're telling me that if I'm, and that's what I'm trying to get clarification on. When are we signing this lease? 12 months from now? Or are we signing it today?
We're signing it today.
Okay. So clarify that for me, because it doesn't sound that way in that section. And maybe it's just me.
My understanding is the intention of that is just to clarify that there is some additional due diligence that the development team has to undergo for an
That's
initial
fine.
start.
As
We
long
didn't
as-
have really anything to offer this team as far as environmental
Oh, no, I
studies
understand
or
all that.
anything
I
further,
understand. I
so.
just wanted to know when they took control of the property, which means they take care
As
of
of
the
signature,
maintenance
yeah.
the minute they sign the lease. And they're gonna sign the lease if Bob signs it tomorrow.
That's my understanding, yeah.
Is that your understanding too?
That we would be maintaining the property is
It says here.
when the lease is signed?
That's what it says here.
I think that, yeah, the maintenance would have to be defined since it's a mosaic of public and private uses on the site, but yes, we would step into the role of actively pursuing the due diligence to complete the development. I don't know that the lease calls out specifics relative to those areas that we would be maintaining versus the city maintaining at this execution
I mean, the.
moment in time.
Well,
Is that accurate?
Yeah,
City
I believe
staff.
our expectation is to facilitate the maintenance of that portion of the property until construction starts and then hand that to the development team. But that would be again, the parking lot maintenance and the surrounding grass areas as defined in the scope of the project in one of the exhibits.
I'm just reading what it says here. It says leasing shall be responsible for all maintenance and repair of the property at leasee's sole cost and expense.
And it would be, but I think we have anticipated assisting in that partnership until they start construction in the spring.
Hopefully it doesn't take another 8 months. Wait. Okay, I guess if that's what you want, and if that's what the city's going to agree to, then it surely isn't what. And I think when it comes to the development agreement, you know, I think that, obviously, that's going to be for another council to take a look at, because I won't be here. But I think you have to be as creative as possible. There's people on this council that surely wouldn't support additional density. And I think that property deserves density. And if you're gonna give us a farmer's market for nothing, I think that's a huge contribution to this community. And the least this community could do would allow you to put some density on that, which I think should be some type of residential on top of that farmer's market. I'm sure that, I'm not sure if other people would agree with me on that, but I think that, you're stepping up more than I ever expected. I'll be very honest with you. I mean, that building is, it's not gonna make you a lot of money, let's be honest. And I think you're stepping up tremendously to do that. And that's why I'm gonna, I surely agree to the lease terms, because I don't think the amount of money for the parcel means that much because of the development you're putting into it. But I think you should maximize that development. And to go up one more story, I don't want to hear about views. It looks at a channel. I hope that the next council looks at this a little differently, because I think it's you're doing a lot for this community, and I personally appreciate that.
Thank you for your comments.
I agree. I think our public that has been with us understands that we don't have a whole lot to deal with here, other than we don't have money that we're putting forward in it. We're getting such wonderful benefits for the entire community in this property with this partnership with Copper Rock. And so what we have is to give away are things like brownfield incentives or the arrangement regarding the lease, this land lease and other things. And so I just want to say I appreciate your partnership in all of this, and this all looks good for me.
As do we. Thank you.
Thanks. Mike?
Yeah, I want to say thank you for stepping up, and I didn't vote for you guys, but I tell you what, it's going to be a great, great thing for us. It's going to look really nice. I'll support you all the way. It's, the only thing I had problem was moving the mini golf over in front of the train, and that's was kind of like a hard place for me to have it go there. I didn't think that was the proper location for it. But other than that, the land lease and everything else is good, and I'm looking forward to the development and seeing what we have. I think it's going to be a great piece for City of Grand Haven to enjoy.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'd like to go back to something that last year when we selected your proposal, your conceptual, and chose to work with you on this development. In fact, it was Mr. McLaughlin said it, that we're looking for a partner. And I think this is like the essence of a partnership, that we're kind of all working together toward a common goal. May not be the most lucrative thing out there, but it's for the good of the community. I think this is going to activate the space. It's going to put something there that the city can be proud of, something that will be there for a long time and will function well. I want it to be successful. I want it to be successful financially, and I want it to be successful as a community asset and a draw for both citizens and visitors. I think we got that, and I think it's going to work out well. I understand there's more to be done, that this is like a step on the process. We still have a development agreement to come to. We have various due diligence, fact-finding, things like that, which still have to be resolved, and that we're not quite close to the shovels yet, but we're getting there. But I think this shows a lot of good faith, and I think on both your part and our part, we appreciate that. And yeah, it's going to be one of those things we do for pride. So appreciate that. And certainly in support of this, it's a complex document. It's something that, again, is one step on the road.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
But we appreciate you working with us on this, and I think we all have a common goal. So, thank you. Any other comments or questions? No. Please call the roll.
Lowe,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Fritz,
Yes.
Manetza.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right, that is all of our business for the day. It's time for a report by City Council. Who would like to speak first?
You're good.
I don't have nothing to say.
We got a thing from the Pole Elk Ski Day, which is be coming up on the 27th. It's Polish days that they're going to have at the Elks. They were here and we gave them an okay for it. They invite everybody to please show up and enjoy. It's the first ever. And also, I want to say that I was just reading that Hispanic Heritage Month starts the 15th through October 15th. So that'll be coming up too for us on the weekend. So it's going to be a great time. Other than that, I think that's about it, Bob.
Okay, thank you. Karen?
Yes, since our last meeting, I served on a citizen group who assisted in interviewing the candidates for the new Ottawa County Administrator, and happy to announce that the board did select someone on Friday, and so we can welcome our new Ottawa County Administrator, Patrick Waterman, back to Ottawa County. Also, since our last meeting, we've had a NORA board meeting, and which also included, unfortunately, the resignation of the executive director for another opportunity that is really well aligned with him. So we are conducting a search, and we'll be, I believe Taylor's helping us with that in terms of posting that position, and we'll be interviewing candidates over the That's it.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I was pleased to see Mr. Patrick Waterman selected as county administrator. I remember when he sat in the little office behind the elevator in this building as a part-time planner here. We shared him with Grand Haven Township for a short time. Then he went to Grand Haven Township, then he went to Hudsonville.
I didn't know that.
Yes, he was here briefly.
I didn't see that on his resume.
I remember I was on planning commission at the time. This was a long time ago. It was like a little step on the way there. But yeah, I mean, he's a very high-quality person, great administrator, high integrity. Look forward to working with him. I think he well deserved that appointment. Last week, I had the privilege and honor of participating in the American Legion's 9/11 ceremony. It was a very well done, very touching ceremony, honoring and remembering all the victims of the 9/11 catastrophe from 2001. It's another of those events in our nation's history that we all remember where we were when it happened. We all felt the impact of it. And good that we keep that alive. I attended various other meetings with the city boards. And I'll be going to the Michigan Municipal League Convention later this week and hobnobbing with other city officials and hopefully learning a lot of new stuff. So I think those are always good. And when I get back, I'll prepare a short memo and read it about what I learned. So, and that is all I've got. So, time for city manager.
I don't have anything this evening.
Okay. Well, in that case, that brings us to our second call to the audience. At this time, members of the audience may address council on any item, whether on the agenda or not. Those addressing council are asked to provide their names and address, will be limited to 3 minutes of speaking time. Council will hear all comments for future consideration, will not have a response at this time. Those not physically present who would like to call me, dial 616-935-3203. Who would like to address council at this time?
Jim Hagan, 400 Lake. I just wanted to remark on the new website. I like most of it, but when I went to send a message on the website, a canned form came up that only allows you to send a message to one person, and it also doesn't send any kind of response to the sender, so you don't have any record of anything that's been sent. To me, that's really needs fixing. So I hope that you all look at it and it's fixed. Thanks.
Thanks, Jim. Anyone else? Well, thank you all for sticking out this lengthy meeting, but at this point, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you for coming.